I'm not a fan of Simon Jordan in all truth. And he was slamming the reported pay-per-view prices on Talk Sport. They were talking to Spencer Oliver, and it looks like Joshua versus Fury is going to be £40 on BT or Sky. It's going to be £40. And he threw Joshua under the bus, saying if Joshua was as popular as Tyson Fury, or if Tyson Fury was perhaps fighting another popular American fighter, they would have held the fight in America. And maybe he's got a fair point about Joshua. Joshua did flop at the MSG. And he said the fact that there's this given narrative that both of them have to earn $100 million for this fight, he was turning his nose up at a potential £40 pay-per-view price, which would be a record for British boxing, as far as I know. Not as far as I know, it would be a record. But Simon Jordan is an arrogant tit. Is he still the chairman for Crystal Palace? I used to support Crystal Palace. They were one of the teams I used to support when I was a young kid, before he was around it. And apart from a few semi-finals against Man United, or when Wright and Bright, the Soul Brother centre-forward lineup, that was quite exciting back in the day. They haven't did anything. Why don't you go do something with your football club? Why are you getting involved in boxing? If the British public want to pay out to see Fury and Joshua and make sure they're well compensated for the first undisputed heavyweight title fight between two Brits, why are you sour about what? Because you're not getting money? He sounds a little jealous, sounds a little bitter. Boxers have a short career, yeah? AJ and Fury have fought their way into this position, and if the Brits want to pay for it, what the fuck's it got to do with you? If you could go in the ring and earn that money, what are you going to come out and say? Nah, I'm earning too much. I think the public should get a cheaper pay-per-view. Nah, you fake. Boxing didn't get no bailout payout, bruh. And before you talk about Anthony Joshua, he went in his own pocket and helped fund some of them amateur clubs to stay alive. So stay out of boxing's business. Now, we have to watch out for the future, because they could be setting a template that we never go back down to £20 pay-per-views. Not for a decent card anyway. The bottom line is, though, a lot of kids have never seen or been involved in the build-up of an undisputed heavyweight title fight. Loads. And this is where they get in on the action. I've seen 2 undisputed heavyweight champions crowned in my life, because I'm a fossil. But there's loads of kids who haven't. And look, there's going to be a lot of kids who can't afford that 40 quid, admittedly. But the dads who can afford it, they shouldn't be penalised from sharing that experience and that bonding between them, their son, and maybe their mums and their daughters from watching the undisputed heavyweight title between 2 Brits. Simon Jordan, you're a football chairman. Football a long time ago left behind the ordinary man who just wanted to go to the game with the inflated season ticket prices since it became all stadium. Don't get me started. Couple of days back, Frank Warren's Queensbury Promotions, they posted up this little vid of Daniel Dubois doing some pull-ups, looking lean. The rebuilding job starts. And according to Michael Benson, Daniel Dubois is no longer being trained by Martin Bowers following the Joe Joyce defeat, and he's set to appoint Mark Tibbs as his replacement. Bowers, however, will remain as his manager. Dubois has been told by doctors he can return in April, according to at Mel Sport. Now we're going to see how good Mark Tibbs is as a trainer. Because yes, he steered Dillian to, a 10 or 11 fight winning streak. But to me, Dillian is very much a natural fighter. He's quite a natural fighter, and he's came on leaps and bounds. I don't think Dillian is hard to train. Dillian was doing MMA, kickboxing, boxing. He beat Joshua as an amateur. Dubois is going to be a test on Mark Tibbs' ability, however. Dillian, I believe Dillian has better ring instincts than Daniel, and that's something you can't really teach. But then again, it could be because Daniel's pretty green. He seems like he needs to learn a whole lot, though, watching that Joe Joyce performance. A lot of people are going to be, Mark Tibbs, but that's on the basis of what they saw Tibbs and Dillian produce. We still don't know if it's Mark Tibbs was fortunate to get a boxer like Dillian, or was Dillian fortunate to get a trainer like Mark Tibbs. We still don't know. For now, I'd keep a balanced view on it and say they were fortunate to find each other. It was a good marriage. Although, in saying that, Dillian had a very good setup with Mark Tibbs, because let's not forget, Jimmy Tibbs, probably the most experienced British trainer who's still alive today. He was He was the glue that kept it all together, that wise old head. Jimmy worked with Lloyd Hunnigan, Nigel Benn, Billy Joe Saunders, Frank Bruno, Dennis Andrews, Chris Pratt, Charlie Magri. We got Michael Watson in there. I don't want to critique Martin Bowers too much. I actually thought he was training Denzel Bentley and actually found out he wasn't. Same gym, but not the same trainer. And no disrespect, Denzel's boxing is on a different level to Daniel's. I don't know how far Denzel can go, but it's on a different level. And it kind of makes sense now that I heard that Bowers wasn't training him. At this stage, I would go with Tibbs over Martin Bowers. No disrespect to Martin Bowers, I'd go with Tibbs. Now, just because Daniel's been given the all clear to fight in April, it doesn't mean that he's going to be coming back in April. Daniel obviously has a lot of psychological baggage to unwrap, and they're going to pick the first few opponents he comes back against very carefully. I am intrigued, though. I am intrigued to see how he rebounds from this loss. I really am. I picked Joyce to win. I'm not gloating about that. I'm saying that to make a point. I was pointing out pre-fight, you cannot bulldoze everybody in the top 10, world-ranked top 10 heavyweights. You can't bulldoze all of them like you did Fujimoto or Richard Latte. You can't do this. And it's a tough job for Jimmy Tibbs. Does he completely revamp Daniel Dubois? Does he make subtle changes? Because if you're just talking about his hands, he's okay. He's okay. Punches hard, nice thumping jab, good combination puncher. But what about when there's incoming fire? What happens then? You can't just be eating jabs like that. And Tibbs' first task with Daniel is keeping that head off center. You know what I mean? That's his first task. Has to be. And Daniel doesn't have stumpy arms for a heavyweight, but if you're not in the 80-inch reach demographic, 6'6" demographic, you have to learn how to navigate range. Use your legs better. Even now when I think about it, his inability to block and slip the jab was an eye-opener. But not every heavyweight's going to have a jab or a reach like Joe Joyce, who he takes on. So the kid has time. He's only 23, but he doesn't have time that you can waste. Jimmy Tibbs has got to get this right, or this could be a short career, because if the eye ain't right, somebody's going to target it. And if he psychologically ain't right from the eye, it's going to hamper his performances as he goes up levels. And the saddest thing would be for him to be washed up by mid-20s. That'd be sad. Is that all you got? Is that all you got? You ain't got nothing. September the 5th, 2018, Fox Sports strikes the deal with the PBC. A landmark 4-year multi-platform agreement. It looked like Fox was trying to get in the game because Top Rank went over to ESPN after HBO shut down and DAZN was just emerging across the other side of the pond. Now we're just over halfway through the deal and it looks like Fox are going to call time on the whole operation. Now the writing has been on the wall for a little while now. They cut off a preview program they had for boxing. They cut that off. And they also stopped covering this golf tournament that was very integral to the network. The network's been around since 94, the Fox Sports Network, around 94. And they've been cutting back before the pandemic. Much was made of their lineup of fights mid to late last year. And a lot of people were really impressed. To me, the only card that really stood out was the doubleheader with the Charlo brothers, where Jason Rosario was defeated in a unification with Jamel, and Jamal beat Derevyachenko. That was a good card, but the rest, not as good as everyone was saying. And that was on Showtime. Caleb Plant versus Caleb Truax, that got 2 million viewers, they were saying. But that's pretty good, but the actual matchup for a world title fight, not all that, has to be said. And now, unless he was bouncing off the back of a football game or a basketball game, that means that he's developing a following. But they've got to follow that up and put this guy in some decent fights with that IBF title. Like his opposition, like Fagan Butts, Mike Lee, and this guy here, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. From what I'm hearing, opinion is split, whether it's the PBC are not performing any worse than Top Rank or DAZN in America. It's just Fox don't want to invest that much money into sports And other people are saying Fox are pulling out because the product that Al is serving up is not good enough. So it depends what narrative you want to run with. It depends what your agenda is, I guess. Rumour has it that they'll be heading off to CBS because I don't think Showtime are going to pick up the load from what Fox is dropping. Watch this space. As for Caleb Plant, I was on live commentating on Ring IQ's Hangout about the performance. And I think we both came to the conclusion that Caleb looks uninspired by the opposition. Like he was going through the motions. Forget the Canelo fight for now. Canelo is booked for a little while at the Zone. They need to fix that David Benavidez fight for Caleb Plant, or they're just going to ruin Caleb. They're just going to ruin him. That's what it looks like to me. And Benavidez too. He's unbeaten. They're going to ruin him along with Caleb. But, Al, I don't know. I can't really say much. If it is over at Fox, he needs to get a move on a new deal, whether that's with CBS or whoever. There's guys like Thurman who haven't fought this year. I don't think Jamal James has fought. A lot of inactive fighters. Unless they're extra loyal to Al. Perhaps there could be an exodus if they don't get it together quick. But let's see if this rumor's true first before we jump that far ahead. But I'll close with this. You look at the two pay-per-views. One was on Showtime and one was on Fox. Errol Spence couldn't crack 260. Tank was in the 200s as well on Showtime. These are the type of numbers why HBO ain't in the game. So something's got to change. How do you guys view this one? Parker versus Chisora. Obviously, Parker's got to get past Junior Farr. But has Chisora's points loss to Usyk took some of the shine off the bout, or does he still have enough credibility with that performance to say, yeah, I think it's a 50-50, it's an even fight, it's a good fight? When it was initially slated to happen, before Parker contracted the spider bite and it put him out of commission, I had Derek the favourite. Will I pick the same way? It depends on how Joseph looks against Junior Farr. And if he beats Junior Farr. It could be Junior Farr versus Chisora. I will remember to call the man Daniel this time around. So Billy Joe Saunders is claiming he's lost sponsorship deals over the Panorama program and their allegations of criminal activity at MTK Global, mostly centered around the kingpin, the alleged kingpin, Daniel Kinahan. One thing I respect about Tyson Fury, talks a lot of crap sometimes, the inactivity thing, we saw that. But Tyson Fury has changed a whole lot since 2015, 2016. He's changed a whole lot. He said a few dumb things like trying to throw Joshua under the bus with Black Lives Matter. But for the most part, he doesn't get involved no more, does he? He doesn't really get involved like that. Billy is crying wolf a little. He's saying he's getting a lot of harassment and he's lost sponsorship deals. Well, why was he going so hard on Twitter against Barry McGuigan? It's not like McGuigan was going back and forth with him on Twitter. Why was he doing that? The only person really bringing attention to the situation is Billy and his inability to just pipe down. I'm not going to go into the tweets, yeah? I'm not going to go into the tweets, but he's claiming he's lost sponsorships, he's got harassed. The truth is, no other MTK Global fighters have complained about losing sponsorships except Billy. Have you lost the sponsorships because of what you allegedly tweeted to Barry McGuigan? I'm wondering. The documentary revealed that Kinahan is still working at the top of the sport. Now, Kinahan has no criminal convictions, but his name keeps appearing in the headlines for the wrong reasons. And apparently, the BBC team who produced the Panorama program have since received threats. Police in Northern Ireland have warned them about an unspecified threat from an unnamed criminal element in relation to the program, which was broadcast on Monday. Billy keeps bleating on, I know Daniel, I've known him for a long time, we've had a positive relationship, he's aware of the allegations, but he doesn't accept them. Well, that's fair enough you don't accept them, but unless you're a solicitor, stop talking about it, stop going on social media. Let it die down. I don't think we need to ask if Barry McGuigan has received threats. Panorama continued to ask Tyson Fury whether Kinahan was still his personal advisor, but he didn't respond. Wisely so. Eddie Hearn, he was briefly involved in the documentary. He promotes Joshua and Saunders. He said it's business as usual, and he anticipated no impact on the fight between Fury and Joshua. He said the news broke to the boxing world quite a long time ago. I think it reached a bigger audience than the normal for boxing. The fight is much bigger. It's so big, it will be the only thing discussed amongst the fans. Hearn said no sponsors or broadcasters had expressed concern to him since the broadcast. However, one MP has said Panorama raised major issues for both the Irish and UK governments and the boxing authorities. Stephen Farry, deputy leader of the Alliance Party, told the BBC he was very concerned about the influence of Daniel Kinahan over international boxing. The Panorama team should be congratulated, he said. You see, me not trust the BBC. I don't think they want the undisputed fight. I think people like Simon Jordan and a few other people, I don't think they want this event to happen. I don't think they want to see the success and wealth that it could potentially generate. That's what I believe. They could have done that documentary any time, but they decided to do it just before we're getting the undisputed heavyweight title fight between two Brits, and now they want to put this out. So this politician from the Alliance Party, he raised some issues with the UK government and the response was dismissive. He now intends to table a series of follow-up questions. What, like members of your party and probably yourself, claiming expenses over every little flipping trip you take, every item you purchase and overpriced dinners you eat. Culture Secretary Oliver Dowden told the BBC the film raised very worrying allegations. Lawyers for MTK Global told Panorama that while Kinahan provides some personal advice to a number of boxers managed by MTK Global, he had never owned, controlled or been an employee of the company. Kinahan's lawyers told the program he had no criminal convictions and the allegations about him running a violent cartel are false and have no evidential basis. For those who don't live in the United Kingdom, let me just tell you that the BBC have had paedophile rings institutionally and endemically embedded in that company's framework for over 50 years. The BBC do not like boxing. They used to like it, but they don't like boxing. And they don't want to see this fight. As far as I'm concerned, they don't want to see this fight. This fight is a threat, I believe, to certain corners of the establishment. Politically, media, etc. That's what I'm seeing right now. And then I also have to question, how powerful is Daniel? One of my favorite channels, 68 Scrapbook Boxing, he was asking, will this fight be played out on a level playing field if Tyson Fury is so mobbed up? Well, I hope so. That's all I can say. I hope so. This story is not going away. It's not going away. And I don't want to say anything negative, and I hope Eddie Hearn is right, that the sponsors, the broadcasters, and any potential advisors are not going to shy away from the controversy. But I will say this, all parties are going to have to come in there with clean hands, or it's going to be in jeopardy. That's not me putting bad luck on it. It's going to be jeopardized if everybody is not coming in there with clean hands. We need stringent doping protocol. Threats from anywhere have to stop. Keep Billy Joe Saunders the fuck off social media. Keep him off there. Try and appease if you can, or make peace with Barry McGuigan, maybe a Lou DiBella or whoever that promoter is who feel he was done wrongly by MTK. Try and make peace. No poaching fighters. No broken legs. This is a sporting event at the end of the day. There's going to be a lot of people jealous that they're not involved in this event. A lot of people. It's a very powerful event. You're talking about an event worth $500 million. A British sporting event between two boxers. You know what the government need to do? You need to investigate the vile racial abuse that black players have been suffering in professional football in this country for the last 50 years. Up until a couple of days ago with Man United players, Marcus Radford and another Man United player who had to kit out his house with extra security because of the racial threats and abuse. A lot of people want to bring up human rights violations in Saudi. which is a serious issue. And look, if it's that bad, and they start pressuring Fury and AJ not to go, fair enough. Don't let me see no musicians, entertainers, UFC, wrestling, or anybody going after. Yeah? Because they were trying to threaten Anthony Joshua before the Ruiz rematch over there about human rights violations. Joshua should speak out or he shouldn't fight. If you're going to ban one, you ban all.